What's up, Edmonton? It's Ryan here with Hauer Power Electrical, your Edmonton electrician, and we're here to bring customer service back to the trades. So our whole mission is powering customer service, and that's what we aim to do. So that's why we make these videos. And today's video, we want to talk about finishing your basement. So with attention to electrical, finishing your basement is electrical, and why you should do it. What are the pros and cons, and what are really the top kind of 10 things we're going to look at of what's going to hold you up and what's a concern. So let's dive right in. Okay, your kitchen. If you're going to have a kitchen in your basement, that's a big concern because you may need a service ampacity upgrade. So if you're looking at adding a second laundry, that's going to be a 30 amp 2-pole. That's going to be an extra draw on your house. If you're looking at adding an extra range, that's a 2-pole 40 amp or 50 amp there. So depending on what size of range you got, what size of stove you have, that's going to be a big difference too. You might need a service ampacity upgrade there. So when you're adding a kitchen, that's one of the big draws. You may need a voltage calculation there, current ampacity calculation. So we can do that through the city and we can get that to you. But that's one of the things you might want to look for. It might be a holdup. So if you can nip that in the bud before you start framing it and everything and getting your planning done, if you can get that out of the way ahead of time, then you might be better off. Another big part that we're going to look at, or that we are looking at here, is if you're renovating this basement, if you're finishing this basement for the purpose of a rental or for comfort, are you going to be renting this out? And that's why you have a second kitchen, maybe a second laundry, because that's going to be potentially quite a bit bigger of a job too, especially if you may want second metering. So if you have a second entrance, separate laundry, you're going to do a separate furnace. You're going to go by code the whole way and have a whole separate entity for this second suite. Then you're definitely going to have some service changes. You may have a dual meter set up so that then they can bill directly to EPCOR or Fortis or whomever your utility may be. But having 2 meters might be easier. It will cost more right off the hop, just be less maintenance overall in the future. What some people might do instead too is just give an average utility bill and cut it in half and split it for the top suite and the bottom suite, and then that way you don't have to hire us to do metering. But if you do want to do the metering separate billing, we're happy to do that for you. Another big part you want to look at for that rental side is you're going to have certain stipulations. If you're going with drop ceiling, it has to be a rated drop ceiling. If you're going with drywall, it has to be the rated 5/8 drywall. The other side of your basement that you might want to have a look at is the comfort side of things. So if you want to renovate that basement, finish that basement for comfort, whether you want to have a home gym, maybe you want to have a bar, maybe you want to have a theater down there, whatever you might want to have down in that basement. If it's for comfort, the goals are going to be completely differently than if you're having a second suite for rental income. So if you're doing it for comfort, you might want to focus more on things like spotlights. Especially most basements, they're not going to have as high ceilings. They're not usually 8-foot ceilings like your typical standard home. But if you don't have those 8, 9, 10-foot ceilings, you're definitely going to want to go with spotlights, because if you go with a standard lighting fixture, even if it just takes up 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches of your ceiling space, it's going to make it seem a whole lot more shallow of a ceiling. It's going to make it seem a lot more tight and cramped and more of that dungeony basement that no one likes. So that's why we would advise pot lights the whole way through. So at that point, 4-inch, 6-inch, totally up to you. 6 inches brighter, 4 inches not as bright. 4-inch takes up less space though, so you can add a whole bunch more so you get less shadows. But that's the whole science to that. Watch our videos on that on recessed lighting and pot lights. But that's one of the parts for comfort. The other part, looking at the bathroom. If you're going to do a nice tile setup for the bathroom, we've seen a lot of that, then you might want to have a shower rated pot above your shower. Maybe you want an extra pot light above the rest of the bathroom, depending on the size of the bathroom, in addition to a nice vanity fixture. So that's another consideration too. As far as comfort as well, if you're looking at having maybe your home gym, maybe you want to have satellite TV to it, cable, coax kind of thing, it's better to know that before rather than after. Because if you tell us before, hey, I want to have hardwired internet over here, I'm putting in a gaming computer, then we know that we can bring some Cat 6 and coax for cable to the certain drops throughout your basement. Because if you ask us to do it after, you have to open up drywall. There's not too many other ways, especially if it's all drywalled in. But anyways, that kind of goes for the more the comfort side of things, especially if you're gonna have a separate, say a separate what's the word, fireplace. Yeah, so if you want to have a separate fireplace, we got to run power to it. If you want to have some sort of accent heater feature with the nice fire lights going on, we have to know about it. We have to run the power to it. Same with if you're having a bar fridge, if you're having a kegerator, if you're having extra any sort of auxiliary things that maybe you want, but maybe it's a little bit different. If you're having a home gym, you want a treadmill over here. That treadmill is going to need its own circuit, so we need to know that beforehand, and not after the drywall's up. But that's a big distinguishing factor there: comfort or rental. So decide that. Let us know. We can do the walkthrough with you and show you exactly what has to happen to get you what you want. Another part we want to get into here is the number of the bedrooms. So whether it's for a suite, whether it's for comfort, your number of bedrooms is going to determine your number of smoke detectors, your number of plugs, your number of lights. That's going to be a big deciding factor of how many circuits we have to put on. How many circuits is going to determine how many arc fault breakers. And one thing with residential dwelling units is everything, shouldn't say everything, but most everything has to be on arc fault breakers. So an arc fault breaker, we have a video on that, the difference between AFCI, arc fault circuit interrupter, and GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter. They both serve different purposes. They both have the same intent, and that's for safety in the home. But anyways, the breakers aren't cheap, and we want to limit the number of breakers that we have to do that to keep your costs down. But that's why we ask how many bedrooms. Another thing is how many bathrooms. So every bathroom, it depends on who you have living there really, but ideally you want to limit the number of shared outlets with that bathroom. Because if you have someone that's going to use a hair dryer, a hair straightener, maybe a heater, something like that, that's going to draw a lot of current. And if that's shared with other outlets that are also drawing some current, it's going to trip your breaker and you're going to have a bad time. You don't want that. Going to your panel now, as we get into the circuits, your panel availability is going to be huge when determining how many circuits. So your average kitchen is going to use about 6 to 8 circuits, and a basement, you're probably going to add about 6 circuits. So if you, maybe not 6, maybe 3 to 4, kind of your average basement, but regardless, you're going to need some space in that panel. If you don't have space in that panel, then you have a few options. Option 1, the most expensive, if your panel is a fire hazard, we advise changing that out. So if you have a federal specific panel, it's best to change that out, and we do offer financing because it is a heavy blow. But if you change that out, then you'll have brand new panel, lots of space, and Siemens breakers is what we stock. And even with COVID-19, Siemens breakers have been totally obtainable, whereas federal breakers are on back order for the next 4 months, which can be a lot when you're trying to do a renovation and you just can't get the breakers. But anyways, that's option 1, service upgrade. Can be quite costly. You're not going to see a bill for anything less than $2,000 for a service upgrade. That's why we offer financing for things like that, because we understand it is such a high ticket item, but when you do need it, you can have a monthly plan to pay that off. Option 2, you're going to have a sub panel. So a sub panel would be just right next to your existing panel. We come out of that, add a breaker, relocate a circuit, make some space that way, and now you got a nice sub panel with all the room that you need for whether you're doing your kitchen reno or your basement kitchen reno, whatever you need that way. Now you have the space. The third option is if your panel has the circuit availability. Perfect. You don't need to do anything. We just have to add the breakers. As long as we can obtain them, as long as they're not federal breakers, then that shouldn't be a problem. If you do have a federal panel or say Nova Line panel, say those old Bulldog Pushmatic panels, they're a fire hazard. They're not rated, so change them out if you can. When you have the chance, put that on the budget and get that swapped out. It's a fire hazard and should be changed. But that's a whole nother video there about service upgrades. Coming back to your basement, whether it's for comfort or rental, you're going to have a furnace room in your basement. Pretty typical. But if you have now framed in your basement and it's a brand new framing and your switch is back there in the corner for your furnace, that's not acceptable by code. Once you open that door, that switch has to be within 5 feet. So you're going to have to relocate that furnace switch closer to that door. Typically what we like to see is you open the door, you got your light switch right here. Right above it, you got your furnace switch. That way, you can turn off the furnace at the switch in the case of an emergency. But really, if there's an emergency, you're just going to get out of the house anyways, but that's okay. Code is redundant by nature and it should be enforced, but that's what we have to do. So you have to put that furnace switch right close to that door when you're framing in that room. It's now an enclosed room. Another thing that we want to get into here, we touched on it, is the TR receptacles. So in all dwelling units, all receptacles, anything that's in reach of a child needs to be TR. So what TR means is tamper resistant. So when little Susie comes with a paper clip and tries to stuff it into an electrical outlet, she can't. By nature, she shouldn't be able to with these TR outlets. The whole nature of them is they have two plastic shutters so that when you push on one, it won't open, but if you push on both of them, they open. And then you can stick an outlet in. So if you have a plug, you just stick it, wiggle it a little bit, and it goes right in. But if you have a single metal prong or a single metal tab, even a screwdriver kind of thing, you won't be able to really get it in there unless you force it and break it. Obviously, it's just plastic shutters, but that's the whole point of that. So make sure if you're doing your basement or your electrician is doing your basement, whatever you're doing with your basement or any plugs really in your home, make sure that you're installing tamper-resistant, TR approved electrical outlets. Back to those pot lights there. Whether you're going for rental or comfort, we always advise 3000 Kelvin. That's a nice warm light. It's not as warm as 2700 Kelvin, which is what you might see in an incandescent bulb or a halogen bulb. That's that really yellow light at 2700. Some like it, but the vast majority of people seem to be happiest with 3000 Kelvin or 3K. But anything higher than that on the Kelvin scale, you get more white and more blue. Anything lower, you get more yellow. That's just how the Kelvin scale works. So yeah, that's basically what we have for you today here about finishing your basement. If you have any success stories or any stories about your basement finishing it, we'd love to hear about it. We hear stories all the time, but we don't want to bash anyone else. We just focus on our customers and making them happy. But if you do have an experience where you need something fixed in your basement, you weren't happy with the guy or the work that they did, we're happy to come out and have a look at it and do the work for you. Again, at Hauer Power Electrical, we power customer service, and this is one of our ways that we like to give back and be a part of Edmonton, this great city of ours. So give me a call, 780-935-0622. Visit our website at hauerpower.ca and email us at info@hauerpower.ca. You can check us out on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube right here, and yeah, we look forward to giving you power. Have a great day, Edmonton. Bye-bye.